All right. Well, we have a lively crowd here this evening. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I know it's a challenging night and challenging time for our community, and so thank you for being here. The Mayor, Councilmember Saragosa will be here shortly. He is he's supporting one of our local organizations and helping feed some of the evacuees, and so he was delivering meals. So it's a pretty darn good excuse to miss a city council meeting. With that said, I'd like to go ahead and bring the meeting to order, and if you'd all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Great, huh? Yeah, it sure is.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. So, Ms. O'Connell, it's good to see you back tonight. Good to have the whole... Oh, we're missing somebody, aren't we, down here? Got an empty seat. Cleve Morris is out. He's on vacation. He'll be back. Extended vacation. He'll be back in a bit. Probably by next meeting. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Borelli?
Here.
Councilmember No? Here. Councilmember Saragosa will be noted as absent at this moment, although he will be joining us soon. Vice Mayor Taylor? Hi. And Mayor Thomas?
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, it's at this time I have the distinct honor to present and read the proclamation of the City Council of the City of Placerville declaring September 2021 as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. And Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, the most frequently diagnosed cancer in men and the second leading cause of cancer deaths in men. And the American Cancer Society estimates that there will be 248,530 new cases of prostate cancer in the U.S. in 2021, resulting in an estimated 34,130 deaths. And it is estimated 25,000, there's a lot of numbers here, that's a lot of people. It's estimated that 25,880 men in California will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and this year, it is estimated 4,140 California men will die from the disease. And the incidence of prostate cancer is almost 80% higher in non-Hispanic black men than in non-Hispanic white men for reasons that remain unclear. An early-stage prostate cancer usually has no symptoms, and studies suggest strong genetic predisposition may be responsible for 5 to 10% of prostate cancer. And late-stage prostate cancer commonly spreads to the bones, which can cause pain in the hips, spine, ribs, and other areas in the body. And the 5-year survival rate approaches 100% when prostate cancer is diagnosed and treated early, but drops to 30% when it spreads to the other parts of the body. And risk factors for prostate cancer are increasing age, African ancestry, a family history of the disease, and certain inherited genetic conditions. And the American Cancer Society recommends that men have a conversation with their healthcare provider and make an informed decision about whether to be tested for prostate cancer based on their personal values and preferences. And the City of Placerville joins communities across our nation to increase the awareness about the importance for men to make an informed decision with their healthcare provider about early detection and testing for prostate cancer. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Dennis Thomas, Mayor of the City of Placerville, do hereby proclaim the month September 2021 as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month in the City of Placerville, and I commend this observance to all citizens. I get checked regularly. I hope everybody else does too. And is there somebody here to receive this?
Richard Montgomery is, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much.
No, his.
Just 1 second.
There you go.
I'm going to go out and hand it to him, but I need to sign it first. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Regina and I have done this now for, what, 5 or 6 years? Our annual get-together. Anyhow, I'm an old-time prostate cancer survivor. I chair the support group in Cameron Park, and I also attend the Sacramento groups. We've had a kind of a tough year because we really haven't met in person. It's been Zoom, and in the last couple of months, we have limited capacity and get our temperature checked, make sure we've been vaccinated, wear a mask, all that type of thing. The biggest concern that we've had this year is most people are not seeing their doctor. So they're not getting the conversation. And I'm a big believer in getting tested as soon as you can and annually. That's the key, as the proclamation has talked about it. The good news is we've had a lot of good things happen this year with being able to better diagnose in the first place, as opposed to just the PSA blood test, which is the only test we've got, and it's not perfect, but it's okay. But they have some new things now that they're trying out, and if the doctor thinks you've been diagnosed with a PSA, there are other tests they can make before you get subjected to a biopsy, which is not fun, but if you can avoid that and get a better diagnosis, it's a good thing. And the other thing that's happened is we have some new advanced tests for people who are metastatic or advanced prostate cancer to better help pinpoint where it's at. I've got a couple of patients, one that's 7 years into advanced prostate cancer. People get excited if the PSA, say, gets over 10, and he's a guy that diagnosed with 5,000. So it was all over his body. So he's been through at least 5 clinical trials and a number of different things, but he's still moving on. And I've got a couple guys like that that are fighting with, they'll go for like a year on a drug, then the PSA goes back up. They'll try another drug. So it's an evolution of time and what have you. So anyhow, I certainly do appreciate you and the proclamation again this year. And please get tested, gentlemen. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And you hit on a key point, especially over the last year with the pandemic. In every sense of the phrase of getting back to seeing your doctor and getting in to your regular routine of having visits and screenings, normal healthcare screenings are really important, and that's something that was missed during the pandemic. And we're still in it. And so initially, that was one of the biggest misses. And of course, the treatments are improving. And another thing, Mr. Montgomery, I want to express my appreciation for what you do. You're another one of these people in our community that support our community, that look at other people and their challenges, and you help them through some probably one of the more difficult times in their life. And we have people all throughout our community doing that. You're in good company, and I want to express my appreciation for what you do, because that's really truly what makes our community. We'll probably talk about that a little more this evening as well. So thank you so much. All right. All right. Moving on. Closed session report. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor Thomas. Good evening, members of the council. The City Council did meet in closed session on 3 items tonight, the first of which was conference with labor negotiators regarding the PPOA bargaining unit. The City Council provided staff with direction. The council also met on a settlement of a workers' compensation claim with Tommy Wheeler and provided direction to staff. For the third closed session item, the City Council authorized settlement with Marianne Roger. And the vote on that was 4-1 with Councilmember Zaragoza absent.
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving on. A motion to approve the agenda. I believe there's one addition to agenda under announcements and presentations. We're going to have a brief presentation regarding Middletown Road, and so that'll be item 6.3. Now, regarding announcements, I have asked one of the PIOs from CAL FIRE that I ran into while attending briefings over there, and asked them to attend our city council meeting and provide us with an update of where they're at currently. And so he will be showing up. While he is at 6.2, he may not make it until about 6 o'clock. And so at that point in time, we'll stop the meeting and we'll give him the mic and give him an opportunity to provide an update and answer a few questions. So with that,
I'll move for adoption with those changes.
all right.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? All right. Hearing none, moving on. Thank you. All right. Okay, brief comments, announcements, presentation, public, brief comments from our council members. Council Member Borelli.
Oh,
Sorry, I can start down here if you want.
okay. No, I don't have a whole lot. I'll tell you, keeping track and what's going on with this fire and everything. And it's just, I just have never been so appreciative of a city than I am of us. People are just stepping forward to help out, and it's just unbelievable and so appreciated, I know. And we say it over and over, can't help but thank all those that are in charge, our staff and they're just doing a stellar job. And the other, that wasn't a highlight, but one of the highlights was attending the open house for the Moore workshop. And what an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous project that came to fruition. And if anybody hasn't seen it or doesn't know anything about it, and I would recommend that you call Susie Davies or call the Moore Workshop and ask for a tour. It's just wonderful what they have, what's been incorporated into the building of this, and so many things that are going to help our community and ways that we can participate, etc. And I would just advise everybody to even just pull up their website and see what they have to offer. So, anyway, that's it.
Thank you, Patty. Vice Mayor Taylor.
Oh, geez. Where to start? With the Caldor fire, I'm just so sad and heartbroken for all the families that have lost homes in our community and have been displaced by this fire. It's so sad, and I think when the ashes settle, everyone in the Placerville area and El Dorado County will have been affected, or someone close to them will have been affected by this. It's really a tragedy that's going to touch everybody, I think, and there's so many people that deserve recognition for their hard work during this time, and I'm sure that I'm going to miss some people, but I do want to highlight. I know, do I risk missing somebody and then not recognize anybody? I do want to recognize a couple of people. First and foremost, our firefighters, Placerville police, and first responders who have been working overtime along with the sheriff's deputies to support the fire infrastructure and also maintain public safety, which was already a full-time job on top of maintaining the fire infrastructure and providing support for that effort. I know that our police officers have been working 7 days a week, and it's just everybody's working really hard right now, and it's very much appreciated. I've got to say that I was so grateful that we did not have a Main Street closure during this fire, and I'm really grateful that we had plans in place for Trip the Green. And I got to thank Rebecca Neves with engineering and Jerry Barton with El Dorado Transportation Commission and Caltrans and all of our other partners that have worked really hard to think about plans for Trip the Green, and that was turning all of the lights on Highway 50 to green, which was used ahead of schedule during the evacuation, and it really it just made evacuation so much easier. And so I'm so grateful that we had that in place. And then I want to thank all of the businesses and faith-based community and the community foundation, private individuals and community clubs for all of their effort to assist people that are in need right now. And then I just want to let people know that the city of Placerville is, we have over 20 employees that have been evacuated. We have other employees that are out sick, and we are working really hard to maintain the critical services to our community, on top of holding up the infrastructure for the firefighting effort. So, there's a lot of special requests coming in for events and fundraisers, and there will definitely be a time for those things. But we don't really have the bandwidth to take on additional things at this time, events at this time. So that's all my comments.
I'm not letting you go before me anymore.
Did she steal your show?
Well, I can pretty much throw my list away now.
Yeah, they covered a lot of ground.
Yeah,
so
they did. So
I'll
Jackie,
just reiterate the many thanks to everyone in our community. So many efforts happening, small and large, everybody pitching in. Just such a wonderful community we live in, and thanks to everyone for that. And anyone who's looking for help, the El Dorado Community Foundation is taking donations. They have a fund set up for this to help the victims. So if you're looking to make a monetary donation, there's a good avenue that's local that makes sure that gets to those people pretty fast. Thanks.
Thank you. As mayor, when something like this happens, I sit back and I wonder, what can we possibly do to help these people? And it's not necessarily a sense of helplessness, but it's a sense of just desire to find opportunities to assist wherever we can and see what the city can do as well. And that is one of the biggest challenges I have faced through this situation is it's the biggest challenge, but it's also the most rewarding experience, because what I've found is that our community is regular people helping regular people. It didn't take a mayor to go out and corral people and get them and start organizing groups. It happened, and it happened spontaneously, and it happened quickly, and it was it gave me a lot of hope in this crazy world that we have right now with all the things going on, that we do have a true community here, and we have people that care, and people that were helping people they didn't know who they were. It wasn't like they were helping their neighbor, their friend. They were helping strangers on a regular basis. The rate of money that flowed into support, it was $2,000 to $5,000 an hour that the Community Foundation was receiving on their online donations. I had a friend of mine that called up from Colorado. How can we help? Where can we send money? I gave him the number, and I don't know what the check was, but he wrote a nice check to the foundation. And people are doing that all over. And so I have a sense of wishing I could do more. But when I do look, and Kara reflected on this, that our city right now with our staffing and what we can do, we are doing exactly what we need to do. Keeping the water flowing, keeping the sewers flowing, keeping our city safe with our police department and law enforcement, and also at the same time supporting the county by lending some of our law enforcement to back up the sheriff's office. Usually the sheriff's office is backing us up, so it's a nice opportunity to return the favor to them. And so we're doing exactly what we can do with the city, and we do have our limitations, and it's mostly people, and our people are stretching, and they're stretching a long ways to make sure our wharf. There's people out there. We're bringing retired annuitants back to help cover at our wastewater treatment plant to cover, and God bless them. They showed up when we called, and I mean, you don't want your sewer plant not running correctly, and you probably don't want Rebecca doing it either. But so there's been throughout our whole community. It's just been an amazing opportunity to see grace to see kindness, and to see love in our community. And I don't want to ignore our fire chief here, who has been spending a lot. He has embedded himself with CAL FIRE firefighters up on the lines, and actually providing local knowledge. We have people from all over the country coming here to fight this fire on our behalf, and those guys don't know Slug Gulch from Rocky Ridge. They don't. And or what is it? What ridge is that? The one up there above the hill.
Rocky Bar?
Nah, I can't remember.
Well, we've
what it
got
is.
so many
there's so
crazy
many
names.
ones. Yes. Anyway, they don't know it, and so having somebody like our fire chief embedded with them and doing that and being, he's literally out there on the front lines with the firefighters and working, and it gives me a sense of gratitude for what my son's out there. He's working on this fire too, and so I pray for the firefighters on a daily basis, their safety. We've done amazing with our firefighters and keeping them safe. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, but right now, this fire is the number one priority in the United States for resources, and so we're getting first dibs, and that is very unfortunate place to be, but we're fortunate that we have that level of support up the chain. One of the things about Trip to Green that I think it needs a little more is the fact that we had that plan prepared. We kind of know what we were doing to begin with, but we perfected the plan, and we also had Beer Camp crews out there helping us. And one of the things that it did for people is it gave them a sense of calmness, that they were able to get through town, that they weren't going to be stuck in traffic, that it gave them a sense of relief. And instead of the anxiety of being stuck, the fear, the fire wasn't there, but the fear of being stuck in traffic when a fire comes through. We all know what that looks like in other towns. And so that also had an effect that we, maybe unanticipated, but we heard that from a few people. And that was, so it not only helps clear out the traffic and keeps our town safe, but it also keeps people's mental health in check too. So I think that's all I can say right now. I truly appreciate actually it's not all I can say because I'm going to say more here. I'll save that for a little bit later. Welcome. Glad you could make it. And I told everybody where you were, so you're safe. Do you have anything to say? We're council comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, and I was just, I'm sure you'll all have said it, so I won't go over too much, but just want to be thankful to the community. I was over at Bayside right now, and there was just constant cars pulling up, dropping off, everything, sleeping bags, pop-up tents, food. And it's just a great site.
So they still need?
There's still needs. I know Green Valley, Bayside, they're constantly updating their needs online as well. So you can kind of see what the latest things are, or they'll give you a list when you go if you have other things that you want to donate. But it was just amidst all the devastation, it's really heartening to see the community come together. There's been a lot of divisiveness over a couple of years, and no one's asking any questions about what you are or how you do something. People are just jumping in and helping each other. And I think, if anything, that this fire will teach us is to get back a little bit of our humanity and know that we're all the same. And in a time of need, we all kind of jump in together. So I just want to thank the community for that. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. We have a brief update on our Middletown Road paving project.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to start off with a little bit of an apology for the rushed delivery of this project. This project was actually planned to be paved last week, But when we were notified that there would be a potential for high winds and Middletown Road was a direct portion of the detour for Trip the Green, we kind of wanted to keep our options open. So we deferred it to this week. This was last week, and we said, okay, it's just too much this week. Let's push to next week and see if we can have a date available, if that's even possible. Well, because of the fire, the crews have come back down from the mountain that were working on construction projects up there, and so they had an availability, and they said, hey, how about Wednesday, tomorrow? So we said, okay, well, how many days? Just the one, just the one day. So we will be paving Middletown Road tomorrow morning starting at 7 a.m. Detours will be established right around 6:30. The folks that live within the project limits, which are from city-county limits to Canal Street, they'll still be able to get in and out of their residence. They'll be guided out by the crews as they work. And it should take about one day. That's it. It should be done by about 4 o'clock tomorrow. And then that is the last segment that's cleaned up on Middletown to Cumbellic. So thanks for your time.
Thank you. Yes, Patty.
Rebecca, just an observation.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I travel this road every day. At the end, as you're going past Canal Street and you hit Middletown, there's brush in there that does impede you. If, like, I'm going towards Middletown and it's over on the left-hand side, you can't see. And I did put in a request with Nick, and I know things are really, really busy, but I'm thinking maybe if the workers are down there, if they bring some pruning shears.
I'm pretty sure we can find a chainsaw. Man.
Cut that brush down. It would really be, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is because, boy, I just saw a near miss the other day, and it was just by the grace of God.
Yeah.
You just can't see, so.
Okay, no problem. I will shoot a reminder to the guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So there's the portion in the middle that's a county section.
Correct.
Honestly, I haven't been on Middletown Road in a little bit.
You'll know which part's ours.
Have they paved theirs recently?
It's a lot nicer than ours.
Okay. So, yes. Okay, good. So I guess one of the questions was, this is not in cooperation with the county to do it all at once?
No. I mean, their portion was already done. But we, as a rule of thumb, for not only the health of the pavement, but also just being a good neighbor, we tend to go just slightly beyond the city-county limits, because if you have a crack and you see this line in the pavement and you say, well, I'm stopping right at this line, but the crack actually extends beyond that, you're still introducing water and a weak spot into your new pavement. So for the overall health of our pavement, and also just being a good neighbor, we go a little further, just enough to make sure that we keep our pavement whole, and also in the future when they decide if they want to come out and repave it, they have good pavement to hold on to. So there's a thought process there.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Moving on to items 7 and 7.1, the consent calendar. Actually, item 7.
Move for approval.
All matters listed under this consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote unless any member of the council wishes to remove any item for discussion. The reading of the full text of the resolutions will be waived unless a council member requests otherwise. So what we'll do is we'll get a motion and a second, and then we'll open it up for public comment.
I moved already, and Kara
All right.
seconded. We're jumping the gun. I'm sorry. Moving right along.
This is part of being the mayor. I get to read this stuff. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and open up consent calendar for public comment. Any items on the consent calendar that any member of the public would like to comment on? Please step up to the microphone there.
Oh, thank you. My name is Peter Myers, and I do have a couple of safety questions. One of them being is that in the morning I take my dog for a walk, a big Malamute called Bronson. I walk him westbound on Broadway. When I get to the junction of Mosquito Road and Broadway, I notice that there's a bush there by the Thai restaurant. And if you're not careful, there's cars that do come by there and they don't stop. Is there any way that we can get that bush either trimmed back or even removed? Because it is a safety hazard.
That's a good question. We have what probably your best approach would be to email our Nick Stone and Rebecca Neves, and Rebecca's right here, and she'll be happy to answer that give us some context here.
Yeah, so you may recall we enacted our 311 system on our website. It's pretty user-friendly, so if you go in there and you log in, you can actually do that request, and the request will go directly to our Public Works Department, and that'll generate a work order instantaneous.
Yeah.
Okay. My second question is what's the status update now on the Gold Country Inn? Does anybody know what is happening there? Because I've noticed that they've completely vacated the buildings. They've demolished the inside of the buildings, but it's been basically sitting like this for the last 5 months. Does anybody have an update to the general public?
So it's kind of interesting. You're bringing up issues that would normally be brought up in public comment section rather than the consent calendar.
Oh, okay, well, we can do that. All right, we can wait then. Until
Okay, it's literally coming up in like 30 seconds. But I just want to make sure we're following procedure here. So we'll be right back with you, okay?
All right.
All right. Anybody would like any other comments on the consent calendar? All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council for a vote. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Taylor?
Aye.
Mayor Thomas?
Aye. All right, thank you, Ms. O'Connell. All right, we're getting to public comment now. Okay, I get to read this part still. It's my job. Okay, this portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matters not on the agenda that is within the subject matter and jurisdiction of City Council. State law prohibits the City Council of acting on any of these items not listed on the agenda except by special action. The mayor reserves the right to limit the speaker's time to 3 minutes. You're not allowed to make personal attacks on individuals or make comments which are slanderous or which may invade a person's personal privacy. There we go. So, do we have any written communications at this time?
No, we do not.
All right, thank you very much. Now comes the time for oral comments. Please, if anybody wishes to address the council this time on items not on the agenda, please step up to the podium.
Question number one is. Then question number two being is there a status update on what is being done with the Gold Country Inn? I mean, do we know if it's going to be turned into a motel or what the status is?
That is an excellent question. That's a great question. So what we do is we take everybody's questions. At the end of public comment, we'll address them as we can.
So I can address question number three then?
You have three? Yes, go right ahead.
Well, I think this Caldor fire has really kind of made public safety and awareness of fires a very strong importance. We know that we have an issue with the homeless population. Do we have any type of an educational program to them to address that issue, that the fact that they do have their encampment? What do we have in place for safety in case something should happen? I mean, how do we make them aware that this is a very serious issue to homeowners and to taxpayers here with the city? I don't know if it's basically a city issue. I'm not going to put this on the fire department or the police department because I think it's a community education that we should address to make them all aware. I'm just curious as a homeowner, what do we do here to make this safe for us who are the people that we reside here in Placerville?
Another really good question. And we have some answers for you as well. Was that all the questions you have?
I probably got a couple more, but I'll just keep those.
So this is a point where you pretty much get to say which. It's not a back and forth conversation. You just say what you're going to say, and then we'll give the next turn. All right. Is there anybody else wishing to address for public comment?
Hi, Ken Lanford. Good evening. Just the pavement on Broadway. What's happening with that? That's all I want to know.
All right.
That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple of things. Hi, my
There you
name
go.
is Jane McGinnis.
Yes.
I came in to say just one thing, but on the way here something happened, so now I've got a couple of things. And strangely enough, it has to do with Upper Broadway. I was driving down Upper Broadway on my way here, and I was coming to going 30 miles an hour. I was good. I was coming to what would be on the downhill, the last round to the right. If you're going uphill, it would be the first large turn to the left. and there was a very large vehicle traveling about 50 to 55 miles an hour coming at me. Right there is a bike path, and there were two homeless gentlemen in the bike path area trying to fold up some blankets and gather their things. They were well within the bike path area, and you could see what was going to happen. So I pulled way off to the right and just stopped to give this guy room. And sure enough, he saw them at the last moment and turned the wheel. He missed them by about a foot. He missed me by about 6 inches. And I understand people are going to speed. Some people are just scofflaws. I know I have talked before about speed bumps, and it just may not be budgetarily possible. But we've had a couple people, just normal residents, who have purchased those big concave mirrors and put them on trees close to the road in front of their homes. They're amazingly effective. As you come up the road, you see in the mirror what is around the curve. And if we could just go for something like that, where people coming up or going down can see around the curve. I mean, we were literally 12 inches away from calling 911 and having bodies in the road. And that road is now so beautifully done that people just want to go on it. And I understand the temptation. So that was the thing I didn't mean to talk about when I was coming down here. What I wanted to say was I was evacuated from my house a week ago, and it was a very quick warning, not a lot of time to grab things, and I was not able to catch my cats or get them in cages because cats do this. They don't let you take them. It was very tough to leave. But once we got off of Sly Park, which was 5 miles an hour, and we got onto Highway 50, it was just straight shot. I was in Placerville in 15 minutes, and it had a lot to do with not feeling panicked. So thank you so much for that. And then I understand my house is still there. That's going to be in God's hands, who knows. But I found out about 4 days later that the Placerville police had been in my neighborhood going from door to door to protect our homes against looters. And I am just so grateful to you, Joe. Thank you so much. I have no idea if by the time I get home I'm going to have a house. That's in God's hands. But because of the county, I have my cats. They sent someone to my home. I'd left the door unlocked because I didn't want to endanger firefighters. And when they come up against locked doors, I think they feel the need to make sure there's nobody inside. So I left it unlocked. And this lovely girl came to my house, walked inside, caught both cats, even the one that's impossible to catch, and they're now over at the animal shelter. So between the city and the county, I have been so well taken care of, and I want to thank everybody involved. You've been great. Also want to tell you, Vantage Point Church, I haven't seen them on the list. We've been taking people in since the first day. They just moved a big truck into the parking lot and set up 2 showers. There's probably room for 20 to 25 more RVs in the parking lot, and we've got the entire sanctuary available for beds. Anybody who needs a place to stay, send them to Vantage Point, because we're doing online services until this is over so that they don't get displaced a second time by having churchgoers make them move. Okay? That's it. Thank you, guys.
All right, Jane, thank you. Well, normally we don't give people 2 swipes. Since the room is not too packed, we'll give you one more shot at it.
This pales in comparison to what you just had mentioned, but it's basically the beautification and the community pride of being downtown in Placerville. I see that we have a lot of doggy bags on the bike path. You know, the bike path behind the independent restaurant, the bike path behind where we are right now. But when you go downtown, we have a lot of trash cans, but we don't have any doggy bags. Is there a way that you might want to just put some doggy bags up there so when people come into town and they bring their dogs, at least they know that there's, on either side of the street, you've got a supply of doggy bags. So it's just another suggestion worth considering.
Thank you. All right.
Nice to have a new voice at the mic. Jonathan Gainsborough.
Hello, Jonathan.
Hi, Mayor and Council. So last Tuesday night, we didn't know if the fire was coming over the hill, and I have a fresh appreciation for the firefighters and the fire department and the fire chief and the police. And we stayed up most of all night not knowing if the wind was going to blow and bring the fire into Diamond Springs. We could have lost Diamond Springs, and we could have lost Placerville. That's such a scary thing. We could have lost Placerville. Praise God for the smart thinking with turning the lights green. I was speaking at the supervisors this morning, and anyway, how could it be at 50 seconds? I just started talking, but is the 3 minutes already gone?
No.
No, it's a drug clock. Okay, it's going the other direction. We call them when a clock doesn't work at our house. So anyway, my friend that lives out there, it's on the fire council, he said it took him 20 minutes to get in from Oak Hill Road to the stoplight at 49 in Diamond Springs. And so that's just something, if we can communicate with whoever when there's an evacuation, just like it helped here, it didn't help there. So that little detail skipped by. Don Ashton said this morning that there were 15 beds available at Green Valley, that there were 13 at Cameron Park, and there were another 14 or 15 available at Rolling Hills. But I don't know that was communicated to the police to be able to give to people to find those beds. That's always been a problem with the hundreds of thousands of dollars in Sacramento with the HMIS program. So coordinating that would be a good thing. Just in the remaining time, there, but by the grace of God, are 25,000 evacuees in the county, and I know we're all doing everything that we can do. But is it possible to set up a line of just to collect ideas for unmet needs? Because what sank the Titanic was the 7/8 below the water, a quarter mile of an iceberg. All they saw was 125 feet above the surface. That didn't sink them. And then just finally, what needs aren't being met right now? And I know we're all thinking and doing as much as we can. So just what a great privilege to be in the community. Finally, by the grace of God, we didn't lose our houses. 400, tragically, they say 400 houses have been lost. But by the grace of God, we're also not homeless tonight. We've got 25,000 homeless, but at least most of them have homes. But before the evacuation, the homeless were already homeless, and I just want to salute the humanity of you all voting 5-0 toward a transition center, navigation center for the community, and the whole community is counting on you to move forward on that. I will be praying that we get action on. I've read the hostess plan, and there's a lot of good there. It doesn't have to be designed for the maximum occupancy. So let's not let that stop us from the humanity and the human good that we can do. God bless you.
Thank you. I think we got everybody but Jim. Did you have anything? Good, okay. All right, we'll go ahead and bring it back to the council for a few things here. So with regard to the motel up on Broadway, it was purchased privately recently, and they started some renovations and then they stopped. And I don't know that we have any further communication with the property owner at this time. It is a private property, and unfortunately it's a kind of an eyesore in the middle of our Broadway section there. Are you aware of any further communication with them, Pierre?
No, I don't have any greater detail than what you've explained, Mayor, but we welcome the person with the questions can come to our office, and we can review the file and see what the status is on the hotel. They do have an active building permit.
Okay, well, as I said, I'm just kind of concerned because once again,
So actually, the conversation here is probably not the best time to have it because we're making policy decisions. He's the guy that's going to help you get your question answered after the meeting. All right. All right. Thank you very much. I think for the most part, the churches, they are listed only for the Red Cross evacuation sites, at least from a public point of view. There's a lot of people out there pushing out available opportunities for churches to be sites or to notify people of availability of different churches. But from a public perspective, we are notifying people of the Red Cross. And I do know, with regard to all the trailers and people parked around, our police department on a daily briefing receives all the opportunities that they have, that our community has, for individuals to seek shelter, to seek food and all the different things. And they are actively addressing individuals within our community, whether it's a van parked alongside the road, either they're in parking lots. They are actively going out and engaging these people to give them opportunity, to give them the opportunity of where they can go for services. And I know that's happening.
So there isn't some specific website or something of available places that are. Because I know for a while it was like all we heard about what was full, and now this I don't recognize what this lady said. I don't even know where that church is, but I've not heard of it. So I'm just thinking maybe that's something we should put on our website. I don't know, or maybe
it's a constant moving
maybe our
target.
chief of police knows, or I don't know. Or Dave, do you?
Yeah, on our website we have a link to the El Dorado County website that there's a link directly to OES, and it lists the shelters and places that folks can donate to. So that's available on our homepage if you scroll down.
I mean, for places to stay, where there's vacancies and stuff?
There.
Oh, okay.
It's not, it has some basic information about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, I was talking to Al today over at Bayside, and they're also coordinating between Green Valley and Vantage as well. So, like today, they were calling Vantage because we have more food than, so they were calling people over from the other churches to kind of say there was additional food if they wanted to have people come over, and the same thing with beds and stuff too, to try to balance out and make sure that there's other places to go. So it might not all be reflective on the website, but I know at least within the
that
faith
makes
community,
sense.
they're coordinating amongst
that's
themselves.
great.
Yeah.
That's great.
And with no new evacuation orders in place at this time or in the near future potential, most people who are evacuated have sought shelter, and a lot of people have started moving. The shelters where people are not, they're not places where you want to stay for a long period of time.
Didn't look like it.
And they're pretty rough. And it's just a place to gather your wits and figure out what your next steps are, and have a warm bed and something over your head. So a lot of people are finding other sources and moving with family and for a longer haul of a stay. So, which is also freeing up beds. I know that I've talked to several people at the couple of shelters that I've been to that have said that that's actually what they're doing. And by the way, Karen and I had a great time serving. She's an amazing chef, and she spent all day preparing food for 100 people, and so her and I worked together doing that. What was it, last Thursday? Mm-hmm. Yeah, had a good time doing that.
From where?
We did it at Bayside Church.
Oh, at
Bayside Church. Yep.
That was the fastest a meal for 100 people has ever come together for me.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, if
yes,
I may,
please.
Chief Nate Barkley from CAL FIRE is here to speak to the council when you're ready.
All right. Thank you, Chief, for being here. Give me 1 second. I need to close this up. Is there...
There was a question about the homeless and what outreach
notification.
Oh, yes. If you'd like to address that, Chief, I know that you spend quite a bit of time educating our homeless on fire prevention. Yes.
We do, yes, thank you. And regarding the homeless population, specifically up on Broadway, we send not only our hot team officers, but also our regular patrol officers up in there daily up until the fire occurred to enforce our no open fire ordinance. So our enforcement philosophy is obviously to educate first. We want to make sure that they understand the dangers and the hazards that they pose. And then if there is a continued violation, then we take enforcement action up to include arrest if we need to. So the homeless population has been pretty cooperative when it comes to understanding the dangers that open fires pose to the community. So we're pretty active with that aspect of it. So I hope that answers your question.
All right. And the doggy bags, I suggest you contact Terry at his office, and he can chat with you about that a little further. Thank you very much for all your comments tonight. And with that, we're going to go ahead and bring up, and I didn't catch his name when you read it off to me.
Chief Nate.
Chief Nate Barkley. So, CAL FIRE. Thank you. First off, come on up. I want to express my appreciation to CAL FIRE for the extreme level of communication that CAL FIRE has been providing our community. I've had the opportunity to attend a few of their briefings, their daily briefings, and they literally go around the room and they want to make sure that every person in that room, their voice is heard. They point to every single person, and every person has an opportunity to speak. And if you're from a community member, you have all the utilities there. You have water there. You have the sheriff's office from a variety of different places. You have we have an amazing group of individuals there serving this community. And the level of care, you think that, well, these firefighters show up from all over the state. They show up into our little town of Placerville. And one of the first things they need to do is figure out and get to know our community, what's important, what we're doing. And they literally take the time to do that. I had a couple of questions. One of your guys chased me down and wanted to make sure that I had my question answered fully. And I have to tell you that I haven't seen. Well, we've never had this opportunity to interact, but I haven't. It was just an amazing experience to see how they care about our community, even though they're not here. They're not from here. And it was, because you think they're just a bunch of firefighters showing up to put a fire out. The level of technology and expertise they have in the room for fighting fires, big fires, is beyond measure. We are so fortunate to have this level of capability in our community. And to see how they approach this fire from every angle, and to have it be now number one in the country in terms of our, I don't want to steal in your thunder, but that, I think that's it kind of tells you to the extent of our fire too. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you gentlemen here for whatever presentations you have. We kind of threw this together. I kind of threw it out to you guys to come to the. I asked them if they could come and do a brief presentation, let us know where they're at, and they said absolutely. What time? And that was the extent of the conversation. We gave them the information, and they are here today. And so I appreciate you taking the time away from everything else, because I know you have some meetings going on right now at 6 o'clock as well. So I know that we overlapped on that bit. I apologize, but
it's okay.
Here we are.
We divided and conquered.
Yes, all right. So thank you very much.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for inviting us, and thanks for those accolades too. But I'll tell you right now what all that good communication starts from the beginning with your fire chief, your police chief, right off the bat. And having these local faces as part of our cooperators, especially in our cooperator meetings, and them being able to answer questions on our behalf too is huge. So as many kudos go to them as much as us. So it's been an honor to work with everybody. And to be quite honest with you, I heard you guys talking about the evacuees and some of the shelters, and I think us as a community and you guys as a city, we're going to deal with the aftermath of this fire well after it's over. We have a lot of residents up there that are going to be displaced for some time. So, they're going to be coming here to the city. They're going to be coming to the part of the county, and us as a community as a whole are going to have to support those individuals and help them get back on their feet. So, I hear you guys talking about the shelters and things like that. So just something that we have to get prepared for in the near future. Hopefully we get this fire out sooner than later, and we can stop saying it's number one in the nation. So without further ado, I'll let our PIO and the Incident Management Team 6 PIO come up here and just give you guys a quick brief on how many acres we're at today, our future objectives, and just an update on the fire.
All right, thank you very much.
We can pull it out after. If you want.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Lubin. For those of you that haven't seen me on the community meetings, PIO for Incident Management Team 6. So quick little update on the fire. Remind you, we do have this update that I'm referencing to in the little pamphlets that I just gave you. That's going to change here pretty quick. Obviously, it's almost 7 p.m., and we try to get those updates out right around that time frame as soon as we can at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. And then, like I say on the community meetings, we try to any other updates and or evacuations, repopulations, any information we try to get out in a timely manner throughout the day. So right now our current acreage is at 117,704 acres. They're sitting at 9% containment, and there's a total of 2,119 personnel assigned to the incident. There obviously, if those of you were able to watch the briefing that just happened roughly 30 minutes ago, you saw Eric Schwab, our Ops Section Chief, one of our Ops Section Chiefs, speak to the fire right now. There is some activity on that northeast section of the fire that obviously is one of the areas of concern along Highway 50, and then the west side of the fire there along the communities. Obviously, the community side, very important for us. That's where a lot of the structures are, a lot of the community members around here. We want to ensure that life and that property is saved. Not to draw anything away from the Highway 50 side and that infrastructure and any properties that are there, or that eastern side, but obviously we try to divide and conquer and protect those values at risk as we can. You'll also find in there a progression map, a operations map for you guys to reference and look at. There is a little half sheet there that has a QR code. That QR code goes to a link tree that has all the sites you can imagine. Our email sign up. It has the county website for damage assessment, so people can punch in their address to see, and it'll take directly into if the damage assessment teams have gone in there yet, into their area yet, and done their assessment, and let them know if their structure's fine, if it's damaged, if it's destroyed, or whatnot, and that helps make that process faster for them in this time of emergency to get either their insurance claims done or whatever needs to be done for them, right? Also, it has the code red signups for the county there for you guys, a live Google Doc sheet for shelters, so we can keep that up to date for everybody as things change. That is a really important one for us, is to make sure the shelters are good. So with that, I don't have anything further unless you have any other questions, and then I could also have Chief help me fill in with some of the operations questions.
Question?
Patty, do you have questions?
No.
Okay. Yes, Kara.
Do you have any, I understand if the answer is no, but I was just wondering if you have any idea when people will start being let back into the evacuation zones?
So we have meetings daily. Right now it's kind of twice daily of repopulation and evacuation. So as you can imagine, as the fire progresses, let's just say a fire was just moving one direction, we would definitely start to, on the back end there where the fire's not growing, start to reevaluate, and as we see fit and make those areas safe, start letting people back in and drawing back those evacuation warnings and orders in that area to get people back as quick as possible. The unfortunate thing is this: it's so dynamic on this incident, and things are still growing in all directions for us that we're trying our hardest to get to that point. And then we will have to bring in all the players of the area, be it Caltrans, county roads, the utilities. We want to make sure everything is safe. So when the citizens go back, there's literally nothing for them to worry about that, at least danger-wise, we're hoping. So,
okay.
Kind of a tough target to hit right now.
Dennis, I do have a quick question.
Go right ahead, please.
This probably sounds like a silly question, but how do you ascertain containment?
No question's a silly question. So that's based on the operations section and the ICs and a couple other players within that realm. Based on it's literally based on the information they're gathering, the intel from the guys in the field. There's forward observers that go out and, for lack of better terms, ground truth the line of the fire. So they're actually on the edge of the fire, walking it, taking pictures, not only for those guys, but for our fire behavior analysts. And they're reporting back pictures, what they see, if they know the line's good, if it's contained, controlled, what it may be, and we could put that black line in. And then as they start to do that, it's a percentage of that line around the fire is how they develop it. And then I'll let Chief, if you have anything to add to that.
It's a great depiction of what happens. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of what goes into that too is, like you were saying, some black line and things like that. That's why you're not seeing a lot of the black line right now. We just don't have the resources to get in there and actually, I like to say, make mud of the ash. And that's what we really need. It's so dry with the drought conditions this year that it literally is one spark and we are off to the races again. So we're being a little bit conservative with some of those control and containment numbers just because we can't. I mean, this thing has been burning we don't have any documented fire in that area of this size since we recording, so centuries old. So with that, the drought conditions and the forest conditions, it's just, we got to be cautious. So be patient. You'll see those numbers come up. What we have on the black line on that map, and we brought a bigger one to show you later, was hard fought. So again, there's just not a lot of resources. We're getting a lot more. Like we say, we were the #1 in the state. But to put it in perspective, the King Fire, if everybody remembers, we were upwards of 8,000 people. Actually set a record on the most amount of firefighters on one incident at one time during that time. And we're right around 2,000. So, and that was only 97,000 and some change for acreage, and we're well over 117,000 for this. So if you can put that into perspective and the amount of work that has to be done, and then, like we said, getting the utilities in there as that containment comes up, and mopping up around the houses that are still there and the ones that aren't. We got to get that rectified as well until we can get folks in there and get those containment numbers up. So, yeah.
Could you explain a little bit about what you have done around people's structures and how you have moved into neighborhoods and protected that a little bit? I got a glimpse of that, but I think it would be worth repeating.
Yeah, so as we get all these resources in, like you saw the fire engines pulling in, we set up structure defense groups. And when we have time, a lot of those engines do a lot of prep work. So whatever defensible space we can provide to that residence or building, we do. We're not going to be falling trees or things like that, but wood piles and things that we know that probably shouldn't be there, we move away and just prepare that structure for the impinging fire, what could be coming. It's just a lot of prep work. Every scenario is a little bit different, so it's hard to paint the picture, but if we're literally cutting a line around the house to get pine needles away, things like that, things that we know will give that structure a fighting chance. If we can't make it back to it, or while we're there, it will help us. So there's a ton of prep work that happens most of the time in those structures. So, yeah.
So can I put a plug in here? Sure. All those things you just mentioned, we keep trying, our Fire Safe Council, we keep trying to, tell folks, all those things that you just mentioned, that's, actually taking your time, should have been done, right? So
yeah, I mean, we can always do better, right? We can always look back and we can say we can do better. There's as you guys know, there's probably 1,000 opinions that could be given right now. But what we always say, go to our websites, go to County Fire's websites, and look up those prevention measures that you can do before. I think, we as a community just don't have fires like this, and we haven't since the King Fire and before that, really ever. But this is just a wake-up call that we should be aware of as a community, as a city, and do what we can and be prepared for the next one, because it's going to be hot and dry again, and continue to be hot and dry as we know it.
We would hope so. So I'm with you.
Yeah, the other thing too, and that was a great question about the homeless population, and your police chief is right on. I mean, getting out there and being proactive to start the next ignition is awesome. That's one thing we don't want. So having those officers out there doing that is spectacular. It takes a lot of workload off of us. So again, it's there's so many things that go along with this too. It's preventing the next ignition. It's getting more containment line. It's getting people in from across the nation, really. So, like I said, it's all hands on deck, and whatever we can do here locally as cooperating agencies has been fantastic. So,
thank you.
Thank you. Just one a two-part question, and again, as the mayor said, thank you for all the information. I mean, I've never seen this level of information come out, and to the extent where you literally will go person by person at the briefings to make sure everybody's questions are answered. So thank you very much for that. I know this morning you mentioned that we're basically going to be doubling the size of the amount of personnel that are out here fighting this fire. Do you have a sense over how long of a period that's going to be to bring those resources to bear? And then as a follow-up to that, 'cause I know this is always this is controversial, but will an element of this fire sort of be allowed to burn? Where obviously not by homes and structures, but I know there's, at least on the federal side, there's been a policy to allow some of these burns to go. And so just so people know, if that is going to be a segment of this, that it isn't because, that there's a reason or a rationale behind it.
Right now, to give you a timeline for how long this is going to take place, I couldn't. I mean, there's an enormous amount of work to be done out there. I mean, we're still actively fighting fire, like we had mentioned. It's still actively burning. To address the fire continue to burn, we have CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 6 here, and we're a unified command with the United States Forest Service, and those plans have been written, and there is no objective for that. This fire will be put out. That's been crossed many times, and that will be clear. This fire will be contained as fast as we can.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I guess one more question: Do you anticipate the number of personnel you hope to reach at some point? Is that I know you probably request a lot more than you get, but what are you looking for, and what do you anticipate?
Well, the personnel and the orders are placed by the different sections throughout the team and the incident. So the operations section plans out based on those FOBs and our division groups and branch directors that are out there of what they might need for the following day and how much. And then same with in-camp for the different sections. So like logistics sections encompasses quite a bit. So like our food unit to feed everybody, our facilities to bring those facilities in, like you name it. And then like my shop for public information, how many I'm going to see that I'm going to foresee for the future, and then for people that are timing out that need to go and rest. So there's orders that are placed, and those change daily. We review them daily to either increase or decrease those orders to get what we need, and then it goes through that process through the local joint information centers and geographic information centers, our command centers basically, that order those resources and get them out to us.
All right, thank you. And Nate, I believe, are you a local guy?
I am, yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't even introduce myself. Yeah, my name's Nate Barkley. I live here in the community. I live in Shingle Springs. Actually grew up in Amador County, so not too far away. I've been in the county here for, I think, going on a decade now, so I can say I am local. Yeah, I'm an assistant chief here in the Amador El Dorado unit. Chief Blankenheim is actually at the other meeting up in Southlake, so again, he appreciates the time that and the requests you've put in for us and the accolades that we've been given, and just wants to reiterate too that we're doing all we can. Again, our cooperators are a huge piece of our puzzle too, not just right now, but as we continue to get through this well after the fire stopped. So yeah, thank you again for the invite, and hopefully we've given everything you need.
It looks like we have one more question. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Last question is, are there any forecasted or anticipated weather events that are going to change, that you think will change the direction of this fire, or is it kind of predictably heading northeast?
There is a predicted wind event. I believe it's tomorrow in the morning time, which was similar to the same wind event that we were speaking of over the weekend, except it's not supposed to be as bad. So there is that wind event that we're anticipating now. And then every day the fire weather forecasts, our weather guy, they send up with the fire behavior analyst, send up weather balloons, take take those readings. Obviously, they talk to the local national weather that is in charge of the area. They get all that information, and they're pretty good at getting out those forecasts for us in a timely manner and in a time frame that counts for us to do what we need to.
Okay, and is that wind event for tomorrow morning, is that wind coming from the west-southwest, or is it a different direction?
If I recall, I believe it is. It's the west-southwest winds that are going to do what they were doing before, but like I said, that it's not predicted to be nearly as bad as it was over the weekend.
Okay, thank you so much.
Just one additional. I want to apologize. The question I ask is in here. This is a great, you guys gave it, folder is just full of all kinds of wonderful information. So I thank you.
I wouldn't expect anything less of him. So good.
and this information is available online?
Yes.
Okay.
So in there is about the Ready, Set, Go program. We try to get everybody to go to readytowildfire.org, which talks about all the Ready, Set, Go program, and you can see in there all the agencies that have come together and pushed that defensible space, what to do before a wildfire, during a wildfire, and after a wildfire. PG&E is really good. They have a website for returning home after a wildfire for their stuff, which is a good source of information. Obviously, our maps and stuff on there, and like I was saying, the QR code, the link tree, that has, when you scan that to open that up on your phone or even your computer, you'll see the amount of websites that we've linked to that for any community member around in the area to go to get what they're looking for. Be it the code red, like I was saying, evac sites, you name it, the damage inspection. Help for rebuilding. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for anybody and everybody to get the information they want, because it is a tough time, and we understand. So,
and that is, I think that's going to be one of my biggest takeaways from this event is the level of communication that CAL FIRE's had with our community. It's been phenomenal. Do you have can we post this QR code? I mean, this is for public consumption, is that correct?
Yes, everything in that folder is for public use. If it's not already on the internet somewhere, like the information about air tankers and stuff, that can be seen at the CAL FIRE website. You can just go there, and there's even more information that we have. But I just kind of put in there stuff that a lot of people really want to know about, which is the cool aircraft stuff.
Yeah.
So
I have to admit, I kind of geek out. I watch that. I have it on one of my screens at work, and I watch them just keep going back and forth and doing their stuff. It's pretty amazing what they do.
There's a common terminology one there. We get a lot of people asking that stuff, so that's always good to put out there so people understand our fire lingo, because we understand that not everybody does. I'm sure the chief can attest to that one. So we want to make sure to get that out there. And then, yes, please post that information. That only helps us help you get that information out there for you and get the people informed.
All right. Thank you very much for your presentation. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys very much.
Thank you. All right. Wow, what a great presentation, and I encourage people to can we put that somewhere?
I was going to say we'll work on that on our homepage.
Put that on our homepage, that QR code, and give them anybody an opportunity to look at this. I've looked at this information, and it is a wealth. It is a treasure trove of information for the fire, for community, for information. So they've done a phenomenal job with that. Let's see, we're done with consent calendar. We have no items pulled from the consent calendar. Hey, gentlemen, be safe out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No. Item 10, no ordinances. Item 11, no public hearings. Item 12, discussion and action items. Item 12.1, ratifying a construction contract with First Impressions Design and Landscape in the amount of $25,224. Approving a $7,000 budget appropriation for the Monument Garden donations, and approving a $12,000 budget appropriation for the Latrobe Foundation grant, and approving a $3,805 budget appropriation from the Highway 50 Landscape Mitigation Fund for said project. Mr. Zeller.
Yes. Good evening, Council and Mayor. And I'd like to point out that the staff report, you've been given a revised one and the contract costs and the appropriations have been revised, and I'll go over those in my oral presentation. But first, it's important to say that the project that you have before you today is actually Phase 3 of the Monument Garden project located at Main and Bedford Avenue. This landscape project is the final phase of the Monument Garden project, and I think it's important to go over the project's history for the council and the public too. So in the 1970s, a lot of people know about these plaques, but there were memorial plaques that were put in the sidewalk to honor 21 of our local servicemen who lost their lives in the Vietnam War. And then over time, the plaques became dislodged, and there was a lot of fear that they were going to be lost, and so they were moved to Town Hall to here for safekeeping for some time. And for years, there was a desire in the community to try to find a solution for the plaques. And after Caltrans widened Bedford Avenue and removed an existing community pride garden that was right along the old post office there, Community Pride as a group decided to develop a 3-phase project called the Monument Garden, and that was in order to find a permanent home for the 21 plaques on Main Street. So Phase 1 was actually completed in 2016, which is hard to believe it was 5 years ago. And that consisted of reinstallation of the original bell tower bell, which you can see very clearly when you turn onto Bedford from Main, and that had been stored previously at the County Museum. Phase 2 was completed in 2017 with the installation of a new Vietnam Memorial Monument, which is illuminated at night, and that still stands where it was erected. And the current project is designed to create a community space with landscaping, benches, a walkway, and lighting, and will complete the effort to turn an eyesore into a community space that will welcome people to Placerville and allow the public to stop, to pay their respects and enjoy the environment that truly reflects our thanks as well as our community's history. And it's in the resolution, but I thought I'd bring it up in the staff report that the resolution has a recognition of community pride, and especially I wanted to mention Kathy Lishman's support and effort behind this project, because for over a decade with her community pride volunteers, she pushed to get this garden done, and I'm really happy to see the completion of it. And it's important, I think, for us to remember that these kind of spaces, which are built with love and respect for our community, are very critical to ground us in our sense of place here in Placerville. And so Kathy and her fellow volunteers should be commended. Doug Veerkamp, who I'll describe his contribution to this project, also the El Dorado Community Foundation, and our latest aid came from the Latrobe Fund, and all of the countless individual donations that went to this project since its beginning. So I'll go back to the discussion item now. The Monument Garden Phase 3 landscape plan was designed by Kerry Fryer, and he's the owner of First Impressions Design and Landscape. The funding for this phase actually came from several sources. It came from individual donations, the Highway 50 landscape mitigation funds, which were really an effect of losing some of our community space through that highway improvement, and then grants from the El Dorado Community Foundation and Latrobe Fund. A donation of the boulders and the grading work came from Doug Veerkamp Engineering, and that initially reduced the overall project costs around $2,000. And the change order in this staff report is actually post-estimate. There was also some compost that he was able to donate, and that is where the $590 credit comes from. Now, staff is requesting that the various funding sources be appropriated for the construction of the Monument Garden Phase 3 project. And also the project was determined by our former city attorney Driscoll that it falls under the exemption for bidding, and that therefore we can move forward with a negotiated contract with First Impressions Landscape. So you can see in the budget impact that we're asking for appropriations from 3 different funds. On the revised staff report, it has the Monument Garden donations appropriation at $7,875, $6,000 from the Highway 50 landscape mitigation funds. That leaves about an equal amount for the Orchard Garden, which is going to be planned across the road. and also the recent grant from the Latrobe Foundation for a total of $25,875 available for the project. And so this project, as I had said before, is going to be coming in a little bit under that. And so we have the adjoining resolution in your packet, and also the letter from Doug Bierkamp Engineering declaring what he had donated. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Terry. I know that this has been a very long-fought project for Patty, and I guess even previously Carl, huh?
I'm sorry?
Was it Carl? Was this part of Carl's too?
This was Carl's thing, those plaques, yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing...
They originally were on Main Street. Where,
with trees.
With a tree. And one tree that's left is there by the courthouse. But unfortunately, he was given the wrong suggestion of what kind of trees to plant, and the roots started tearing up the pavement. And so they all had to come out. So.
Yeah. Good intentions.
Yep.
All right. Is there any questions for Terry on this at this point? All right. Open this up for public comment. Anybody like to address the council on item 12.1? All right. Seeing none, we'll bring back the council. I sure appreciate all the money and effort that has gone into this. The VAR camps, once again, have helped out our community. I know that they work a lot in our community, and they also support our community in many ways. And I can't begin to express my appreciation for that. I just did. I started. And then Community Pride. It's nice to see them kind of a little comeback here with this project. They've been, I wouldn't say they've been dormant for a while, but they've been a little bit dormant.
I think they've had a lot of members drop out, and it's been kind of difficult.
I'm really glad to see that they had the opportunity to bless our community again with their work in this manner, because I know that they around our community you can see a lot of their work. And a lot of it's still there being maintained. So that's a great thing.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'd also like to mention on behalf of Community Pride, they kind of dissolved as a group, but there are still members, volunteers that do take care of the gardens around town, and we are focusing on a set of meetings to support those folks that are already still volunteering. We still have a budget every year for the Community Pride planting areas, and I'm hoping that through some efforts by myself and other staff members that we can get the Community Pride vibrant and actually try to expand what they do for the community.
All right.
That's good. Good news.
Thank you, Terry. Any further comments?
I'd also like to thank the city. I mean, the city did a lot in helping get this thing on the ground, and I just appreciate all they've done too. And I just went by today, and the fellow, apparently he was ill, but he's back at it, and it just is going to be just spectacular when he gets through.
Yeah, and that is true. There's a fair amount of work on the city's part to get things like this over the finish line. So yeah, thank you, Terry, for championing that effort as well from the city's perspective.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.
All right. If we can get a motion.
I'll move.
And a second?
I'll second.
All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember No? Aye. Councilmember Zaragoza?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Taylor?
Aye.
Mayor Thomas?
Aye. All right. Thank you very much. 12.2, ratifying construction contract change order number 13 and approving CCO number 14 in the net amount of $142,890 with Doug Bierkamp General Engineering for the Western Placerville Interchange Phase 2.2 eastbound on-ramp project, CIP 41918, and authorize the city manager to execute the same. And approving amendment number 2 to the consulting services agreement with REY Engineering in a credit amount of $25,000 for the said project authorized by city manager to execute. Ms. Neves.
Good evening again. This item before you brings us one step closer to completing the WPI 2.2 project, which reached substantial completion at the end of June. We're still working through the last of the contract items and contract housekeeping. And as we've had a moment to breathe, since that project went by so fast, we have also had a moment to wrap our arms around two of the most significant bid items, which entail export of material as well as roadway excavation. The two change orders before you this evening are CCO 13, which was administratively approved under City Manager Morris's signatory authority, and we're seeking council's ratification. This change order covers soil amendments and markers for the roadside bioswale that will ultimately be under the future ownership of Caltrans when this project concludes. The changes were requested by Caltrans and deemed necessary for future acceptance. Change order 14 covers the two bid items previously mentioned, which are both tied to earthwork. The quantities at the time of bid are estimated by the engineer based on design and existing conditions. It's an estimate, and quantities like this are rarely ever exactly as estimated. The reason for that is once a project is progressing in the field, things can change, and we saw that happen with this project as well. The items that changed and impacted export and roadway excavation included the need for additional grading to improve sight distance at the stockpile for drivers proceeding on the on-ramp, as well as grading that was required to meet Caltrans standard slope requirements beyond the area where limited topographic survey was available. This change order will cover the increase on these bid items listed as roadway excavation and export at the bid unit price. The other item before you is an amendment to REY's contract in the form of a credit to the city in the amount of $25,358.52. REY proposed this as a measure of self-accountability for the estimated quantities described in Change Order 14. A little bit of information on some of the construction engineering budget for REY's contract. You may recall that in order to get the project out to construction, we knew that we were already tight on our budget before bidding. And at that time, prior to us sending the project out to bid, REY reduced their construction engineering support by $28,000 to give us that much more room to be able to award the contract, down from an original budget of $55,615.12. This left a construction engineering budget of $27,492.68. So this additional deductive amendment that they've now proposed actually reduces their construction engineering budget to $2,134.16 on a $2.65 million contract. That translates to about 0.08% of the construction value. So in short, they've basically done construction engineering support for free for the construction. CE averages, or construction engineering averages on a contract, usually average around 5% the total cost of construction. What that normally would translate for another contract would be about $132,000 on a project like this. So they started off with less than half, and then they've gone down to just about nothing. But I want to thank not just REY, but I also want to thank VeerCamp because I want to be perfectly transparent that this change order actually started at a much higher amount. It actually started originally around $221,000. And between REY and some other savings within the contract, and also with VeerCamp bringing forward partnering with the city where they waived a portion of their quantities as well by about a value of $50,000, we were able to make this work within the contract value. As it stands right now, just by the grace of God, because this was our problem child project. It was, Woody always refers to this as the gift that keeps on giving. But by the grace of God, it looks like we're going to probably finish the contract with about $230,000 left in the budget. Wow. So that kind of covers a lot of what I had to, as it pertains to these change orders. One thing related to closing up this project and finishing it, we did get notification this week and late last week that the poles for the ramp metering have arrived and that we will be installing them. And what that will entail is we will need to close the ramp for a couple of days to pour the bases and set the poles. But after that, the project will be fully functional and operational and tied into Caltrans's TMC. And then we will look towards getting a notice of completion done for the project. So that covers my talking points, but if you have any additional questions or concerns, I'm happy to answer them.
What is a TMC?
Traffic Management Center.
Oh, thank you.
At Rancho Cordova.
I got it. Okay.
What's a bioswale marker?
A bioswale? So when they do roadside bioswales, they'll put little markers that Caltrans maintenance will look for. It's kind of serves the same purpose as roadside markers for plowing. They know that there's a bioswale down there, and, oh, wait, we need to pull over and check on this really quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
good question, though.
So the big mound of dirt that's there,
Yes.
are we saving that for something, or did we just
are.
not move it because it costs too much, or because it's kind of it's a big mound of dirt. It looks like it's unfinished.
D, all of the above.
All right.
So we are actually, that stockpile is, think of it as money in the sock drawer for the last portion of that interchange. So the off-ramp, the westbound off-ramp, will require quite a bit of import. Mm-hmm. So the city, even when we did Phase 1A, knew that. And even when they built, I believe when they built the overcrossing for Ray Lawyer, they knew that in the 90s. And so that was where they stockpiled the dirt. So that's why it's there. It does look unfinished, and it will look finished when we build that off-ramp.
All right. The bridge to nowhere is finally going somewhere, huh?
Yes, sir.
All right. It's been a long time coming. Any further questions?
No, I just love that it's our dirt. My dirt.
All right, we're going to open this up for public comment. Anybody wishing to comment on item 12.2? Now's the time. Oops, sorry, that's me.
There we go. Jim Fisher with RAY Engineers. Good evening, council. Had the pleasure of standing up here before you guys with a lot of other more positive agenda items, let's call it. But accountability is something I preach to my kids, to my team at work, and I think it's important to also be up here when you've done something that you could have done better. So here I stand. I want to be sure to be available for any questions you guys have. It's important to reiterate that the project team we had was nothing short of amazing. Going back through the history of this project, of how it started as what should have been a much less expensive change order on the prior contract to what it became. Every step of the way, city staff, Rebecca, Melissa really stepped up, kept finding money, kept those amazing sock drawers, car washes, whatever it took, and even up to the bidding time, we were tight. We knew it was going to be close. You get into construction with a great CM team in Dewberry, and the last agenda item, and coming into this one too, you guys are so fortunate to have Doug Veerkamp, General Engineering, in this town. We do a lot of work for a lot of other jurisdictions with a lot of other contractors, and anyone that ever asks, who would we recommend, it's always Doug and Matt. And this is another example of that, of why they're always first on our list. And we have the pleasure of working with them over in Greenstone Country. We work with them over in Serrano, and they always impress. The quality of their work, how much they care. They really take care of their community, and you guys are very fortunate to have a contractor of that size that has these kind of capabilities to do these projects, because it's really how you guys get stuff done here, and you're able to get a lot of work done that other jurisdictions may not have that contractor available to them. So just wanted to say that, and I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Any questions? Thank you for taking the time to kind of share that story a little bit about how this came about, and I appreciate the honesty. That's not always present, and it's not that people are dishonest, but it's just full circle and sharing the story, and it takes a lot of integrity to bring something like that forward, and I also appreciate you considering the city as, when you look at providing this additional funding and helping us get this over the finish line, and so we've had you've had a long relationship with the city, and I appreciate what you did here. It means a lot, and I look forward to hopefully having the opportunity to work with you in the future as well. It's all about bidding, and you guys have stood by us through a lot of different projects and a lot of different things that have done in this town. And you really know this town. You love this town. I know that because I've seen you do this over the years. And you don't keep bidding and winning projects in a town like this if you don't really care about it. And so I also appreciate that as well. So thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. All right, bring it back to the council. Any further comments from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll close public comment, and we will bring it back for a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution.
Second.
All right, no further discussion. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Taylor?
Aye.
Mayor Thomas?
Aye. Thank you very much. All right, moving on. Item 12.3, a resolution approving the city quality assurance program and authorizing the city engineering to execute the same. This is a real snoozer, by the way, reading through this.
We may have accidentally forgot to put this on consent.
I was wondering why.
I told you. I was wondering that myself, actually, but here we are.
But it gives me an opportunity to share one of my favorite acronyms. We all live in the world of acronyms.
Mm-hmm.
This is the city's QAP. It's an administrative item that allows us to administer state and federal funds on system projects like Western Placerville Interchange.
Yeah.
The last version of this was adopted a few months before I started here, and I love our local assistance team at Caltrans. They remind me when we need to do something again. So that happened to be the case in this instance as well. So the item before you is just to review and approve the Quality Assurance Program manual, which is actually essentially a requirement to administer these projects. But I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions on our QAP?
I just have a real quick one. So I'm wondering why this is in addition to. I mean, when you do the contracts, isn't all that still specified?
Yeah, the contract actually refers to the QAP.
Okay.
So the QAP comes with it.
So you have to have the QAP. You guys just like saying that word. You just have to have this first so that when you do the contracts.
Yeah. So
gotcha.
when we go through an audit, or if there's, and honestly, a lot of this will come to fruition if/when, hopefully never, we get a claim from a contractor, because the QAP does actually outline what they're supposed to be doing, what we're supposed to be doing, and kind of that accountability assignment as well. So
okay.
A little QA.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's open this QAP up for public comment. Any questions? Any public comment? All right. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close it. Bring back to the council for a quick QAP of motion here.
I'll move for the adoption that we approve the QAP.
All right.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Into that. All right, that was fun. All right, item 12.4. Vice Mayor Taylor to be the city's voting delegate and Councilmember Zaragoza to be the alternate voting delegate for the League of California Cities Annual Conference, and direct staff to complete the voting delegate form and forward to the League of California Cities prior to the September 15, 2021 deadline. Ms. O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This year's League Annual Conference will be held in Sacramento from September 22nd to the 24th. One very important aspect of the annual conference is the annual business meeting, where the membership takes action on conference resolutions. Annual conference resolutions guide cities and the League in their efforts to improve the quality, responsiveness, and vitality of local government in California. This year's annual business meeting is scheduled for Friday, September 24th. To expedite the conduct of business at this important policy-making meeting, each city council will typically designate a voting representative and up to 2 alternates who will be registered at the conference and present at the annual business meeting. This year, Vice Mayor Taylor and Councilmember Zaragoza, as well as I learned today, Councilmember Borelli will be in attendance at the meeting. So staff's recommendation is to approve Vice Mayor Taylor as the city's voting delegate and Councilmember Zaragoza as the alternate. However, you now have the option to include Councilmember Borelli as the first or second alternate if you wish. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have none. But I guess one question that I think begs the question of what they're voting on is yet to be provided to the city, and so this is just assigning the delegates, and at the future meeting we will discuss the what they will be voting.
That is correct.
All right, sounds good. Would you like to be a second alternate?
And I'll tell you why I would like to.
Sure.
Because the folks that the voting go in a special place, and if I don't get to go with them, then I have to sit up in the bleachers, and I would like to join.
All right. And if these two happen to...
I don't want to be left.
Right, yeah. All right. All right, so if we can get a motion to approve our first, our voting member and 2 delegates.
I'll make a motion to...
Wait a minute. Public comment. Would anybody like to provide public comment on this item? Open up. All right, we'll close public comment and bring it back for... Sorry about that emotion.
It's okay. It was totally appropriate. I'll make a motion to approve Vice Mayor Taylor as the city's voting delegate and Councilmember Zaragoza and Borelli as the alternates.
All right.
Second.
All right, perfect. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. All right, moving on to item 12.5, adopt a resolution increasing the youth basketball early bird player registration fee by $12 from $122 to $134 per player effective August 25th. And also increase the youth basketball post early bird player registration from $12 from $132 to $144 per player effective August 25th. I'm going to turn this over to our Terry Zeller.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. This is, and just one point of clarification, the effective dates for the subject of the resolutions actually are going to be 10 days from the approval if you approve this tonight. I just wanted to make that's just a little thing we have to follow through code. So that would put them effective September 3rd instead of August 25th, which is tomorrow. In the discussion, I think it's worth kind of going over this a little bit and seeing a little bit of the history. So Youth Basketball League has been a popular program for over 45 years, and it started out with just six teams, and it actually grew to 84 in the 2019-20 season. That was just pre-COVID. And normally our Youth Basketball League runs from January through mid-March, and during the past 3 seasons, not including our dud year, which we can't really pull any data out of, there was an average of 781 players participating on those 84 teams. We also use 12 different gyms, and that is with 7 different school districts in the area. So normally they practice one night a week, and then they play their actual games on the weekends. And the last time that we increased the fees for youth basketball was in 2020 for the 2020-2021 season, which was canceled, of course, due to COVID. However, the march to $15 an hour doesn't stop despite COVID. So on January 1st of this year, California's minimum wage did increase by $1 to $15 per hour. And so we had to look at the increases that would balance how we run these programs. And also there was another consideration of recommending purchasing reversible jerseys instead of T-shirts. This is really a common thing now. It's an integral part of youth basketball leagues, and we want to be with the crowd on this one. So, as you know, to establish the new fees, Matt Lishman, our recreation superintendent, he does a survey of similar agencies, and those are in your attachment B if you're interested in taking a look at that, and then looking at the current user data, and then trying to establish that fee that would generate enough additional revenue to cover us without discouraging program participation. And I just wanted to mention that our rec superintendent, Matt Lishman, he's a vigilant staffer, and he does this balancing act very well. I think that's been shown over the years for the success of our fiscal success of our programs. So that balancing act being taken this year leads us to what the resolution is asking for, which is we have an early bird fee that we want to bring up $12 from $122 to $134 per player, and of course the regular fee after early bird. We're also looking at the same increase from $132 to $144. And then in order to do that balancing act, we're asking for the council to approve budget appropriations for youth basketball totaling $8,436, and then also a $5,757 general fund appropriation for the uniforms. There's a lot of data that went into this, but it's safe to say that we took a look around, and we also feel like we're pretty good at this over the years, and I can take any questions.
Just not so much a question on the fees, Terry, but I vaguely remember the last time we had this discussion, or that there was some overlap in terms of the timing, because like high school basketball got pushed, all the sports got pushed, so that we didn't have capacity at gyms
Yes.
because we use. Or do we not have that problem for the upcoming season? I don't know if.
I think we're going to have some problems for sure. We're going to work through those, but right now we don't see any major problems on the horizon. But of course, with the way that the schools are kind of trying to reinvent themselves every week with COVID, I think that we are going to see some bumpy areas of our leagues. But again, our staff is so well dialed in with the folks that we've used the facilities from that I don't foresee a lot of problems.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Quick question. This is less about the fees and just about the program in general. What age ranges is it for?
That's a good question. You stumped me. Staff will provide that answer to you when I get it.
I know my kids and grandkids have used this, have been involved in this, and actually I did too, but I don't know what that looked like way back then.
How old
but
were
I
you?
That's a good question. How may I help us answer that?
Help me out.
Well, let's see. I was, I think, 11 years old.
Actually, I got help. It's kindergarten through 8th grade.
There we go.
Oh,
Awesome.
wow.
I might sign my daughter up.
Yeah, and it's a great program, and it's unfortunate that these costs keep building. But one of the things the city does is we are a zero-sum game, and so when we have we incur additional expenses because in this situation, through no fault of ours, with the raising of minimum wages and the cost associated with running a program like this, those costs get passed on. Otherwise, we pull it from somewhere else in the community, and then each program supports itself, and most of them do anyway.
Yes.
Some actually cost, but in this particular situation, we're unfortunately having to do this, and I don't like it, but it's part of the world we live in here in this state. Yes.
Don't we have a means too that we have funds that kids that can't afford it, that we offer like a scholarship?
Yes, we have a youth scholarship fund which families can apply for, and it's up to half of the cost.
Half the cost.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
All right.
And I also wanted to say that kindergarten through 8th grade answer was provided by my staff, who is not watching anything else tonight, so they're watching this council meeting. So that's how dedicated they are.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, get a life.
That's
no, it was Monique.
Monique.
Dedication.
Oh, wow, that's even more dedication.
There must not be a game on, huh?
Oh, well, in that case, we like you guys watching. Thank you.
It's good they're looking out for you, Terry.
Yeah, I got your back. Okay. Let's go ahead and open this up for public comment. All right, seeing nobody approaching the podium at this time, we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve staff's recommendations.
Okay.
I'll second.
I begrudgingly, I'm going to vote for this as well, but I don't like it because I don't like putting this burden on families. But at the same time, it's what we need to do at this time. So, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Taylor?
Aye.
Mayor Thomas?
Hi. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Moving on to item number 12.6. Consider sending the attached letter to the city to the city's state representatives regarding needed reform and distribution of online Bradley Burns sales tax, and authorize the mayor to execute the same. Mr. Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. You mentioned the League conference, and this particular issue is one of the resolutions that the League will take up, and you will consider direction to your delegates, so it's very timely. Just as a recap, your Bradley Burns sales tax is a major revenue source for most California cities, including the city of Placerville. Since the 1950s, cities have traditionally received 1 cent on every dollar of taxable sales. Over the years, this simple tax structure has evolved into a much more complex set of laws and allocation rules. Many of these rules relate to whether or not given transactions are subject to sales tax or use tax. Both have the same 1% value, but each applies under separate circumstances. The California Department of Tax and Fee Administration is responsible for administering this system and is issuing rules regarding how it applies in our state. And it's important to note that these rules, there's no law. This is done administratively. So it's fairly loose right now. The chart on page 1 of your staff report illustrates the complex structure of how sales tax and use tax allocation is done in California, depending on where the transaction starts, where the goods are located, and how the customer receives the goods. With the exponential growth of online sales and the corresponding lack of growth and even decline of shopping at brick and mortar locations, cities are seeing much of their sales tax growth coming from the countywide pool. And we saw that during the pandemic, especially since much of the sales tax is now funneled through the pools. Recently, one of the world's largest online retailers changed the legal ownership of its fulfillment centers. And basically, these are huge warehouses, acres large. Instead of having its fulfillment centers owned and operated by a third-party vendor, they are now directly owned by the company. This subtle change has major impacts on how the 1% local sales tax is allocated. Previously, much of the sales tax would have followed the green boxes in that chart and have been allocated to the countywide pool. We currently generate about 20% of the sales tax in the county, and so we get 20% of the action in the county, all use tax. So it's very important that we receive that. Previously, much of the sales tax would have followed, I already said that. Now much of the tax is following the blue path through the chart and is allocated to the jurisdiction in which the fulfillment center is located. It should be noted that some of the tax is flowing to the pools in those situations where fulfillment centers is shipping goods for another seller that is out of state. This change has created a situation where 90% of the cities in California are experiencing sales tax revenue loss that began in the fourth quarter of 2020. This change has long-term impacts on revenues for most California cities because these revenues have shifted to just a handful of cities and counties that are home that house these retail fulfillment centers. This has brought to light again the need to address this issue and how sales and use taxes are distributed in the 21st century. Many, if not most cities, never have the opportunity to have a warehouse fulfillment center due to the lack of space or not being able to be situated along a major travel corridor. These policies especially favor retailers who may have leveraged current policy in order to negotiate favorable sales tax sharing agreements, providing more money back to the retailer at the expense of funding critical public services. With that said, it is important to note the many impacts to jurisdictions home to the fulfillment centers. These centers do support e-commerce, which most of us enjoy, Cities whose residents are ordering products that are delivered to their doorstep also experience impacts from traffic, air quality, compromised safety, as well as the negative impact on brick-and-mortar businesses struggling to compete with the sharp increase in online shopping. These cities are rightfully entitled to compensation and equitable share of sales tax use. We do not believe that online sales tax distribution between fulfillment center cities and other cities should be all or nothing endeavor, and not necessarily a 50-50 split, but we need to find equitable split that balances the impacts to each jurisdiction involved in the distribution of products delivered online. Over the years, staff has had numerous discussions about the issues surrounding sales tax in the modern era, how that law and policy should be revisited to address these issues. It is a heavy lift for all cities that are impacted a bit differently, making consensus difficult. We believe that by once again starting the conversation and moving toward development of laws and policies that can result in seeing cities benefit from the growth taxes generated through online sales, our state will be stronger. It is for that reason the state should develop equitable sales tax distribution for online sales. And in that effort to communicate these concerns and achieve this goal, staff asked the council to consider sending the letter in your packet and also consider authorizing the mayor to execute the same. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I brought this forward. I brought this forward because our voice needs to be in the room down at the legislators, and unless all the cities involved are voicing their opinion and sending letters in, and it doesn't have the same impact. And we want to make sure, and I feel confident that most cities who are suffering from this transition are going to also be sending letters in, because it's an important part of our revenue at the city's sales tax dollars, and with more of it going online and moving in this direction, it shouldn't be bleeding off the way it is.
Whose bright idea was this?
I don't have a clue.
Which big city?
I think it's the tax agency, correct, that made the determination?
Yeah, the Tax and Fee Administration. So basically state employees, there's no law that's determining this. This was all done administratively, and that's why it's important to have law in place. However, I do have to say we got to be careful what we ask for, because it's open game.
Because?
They could tweak the whole sales tax, the way sales taxes are allocated, but I think we need to stay focused on online sales tax, that it's clear there's an inequity. So.
To me, it's just a no-brainer. I can't understand anybody even, considering that it shouldn't be equitable. I just don't understand it.
It'll be just the cities and or counties that have said buildings are more than happy to that they like this new formula.
Yeah.
But you're right, Patty. I mean, the overwhelming majority of cities and counties are not in that position. So.
Yep. All right. I'll open this up for public comment. Anybody wishing to comment on this item at this time, please step up to the podium. Sorry about that, Sue.
Sue Rodman, resident of Placerville and payer of sales taxes in said city. And I've always never did like sales tax, but because it goes back to my county and my city, I have just said, okay, this is my share to help keep my city services going. And to have these online people all of a sudden saying, no, we're going to keep the sales tax in the cities where we put in these distribution centers, is just not at all fair. I think that if you pay the sales tax, you should get some benefit from it. So being a citizen of Placerville, I would expect some of that sales tax to come back to my city, my county, my state, and not just be siphoned off for big business. Jeff Bezos is rich enough, thank you. And so that's I think we definitely need to send this letter in, and it needs to have some community support that says, no, this affects me, because the sales tax that I pay, I expect to see city services and county services come back from that and not just be siphoned off somewhere. So,
thank you, Sue.
Well said.
It is a bit of a tricky, how this ruling and all the things and the origin of it, whether it's a third-party provider that's going to the warehouse, and so they've kind of made it even a complicated thing even a little more crazy. And so the money goes to the city, just for your reference. It doesn't actually go back to Jeff. It goes to the city where the distribution center is, and so those cities are actually getting a bit of a windfall from this, and so that is the biggest concern. Well, unless we had one, in which case we'd be in favor of this, but we don't. And so
I would share. I would be willing to share, Dennis.
It would be the right thing, and
it would be the right thing
considering our
to
community
do.
is probably what we would do here. But we don't, and we haven't, so we're basically making sure our voice is in the room. With that, let's see. We'll close public comment and bring it back for motion.
I'd make a motion to that we send the attached letter in 12.6, urging our state representatives to do the needed reform on this. The only other clarification I was going to add to that was, and it does say state representatives, I just want to make sure we also send it to state senator as well, in addition to Frank, to Senator Dolly.
We sure will. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, hearing none. All right, thank you very much. So, I don't think we've had any meetings since our last meeting. Fire Safe Council have a meeting?
We have
That's
one
kind
coming
of odd. Okay. Moving on to requests for future agenda items. Anything there? All right, hearing none. City manager and staff. One thing that is missing off of this is our police and our fire reports. Which is it missing? Yes, it is. Which is understandable by all stretches of the manage. Are they not on there?
No.
I think this is a by-meeting, so next meeting.
Okay, got it.
It's every
So
other.
if each one of you could just take just a brief moment and kind of give us a synopsis of what's been going on. And I know you got probably a lot to share, but just a quick, what's going on with County Fire, what's going on with with regards to the fire.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. The last week or so has been quite challenging for our fire agency, but I can tell you that I couldn't be prouder of our crews and our firefighters that support our community. This fire broke last Saturday night, and we were kind of keeping tabs on it throughout Sunday. It hadn't done a whole lot. Watching it on Monday as it really kind of started to get some legs underneath it. About 11 o'clock Monday night, when it really started to make a run towards the community of Grizzly Flat, we'd been pre-advised that if this did occur, we'd lose quite a few of our engines to go out there just on initial attack because, the resources from outside had not yet come in. So about 11:30, I got the phone call that, our units have been deployed. I went out there as well as the OES op area coordinator. The crews out there did a phenomenal job. It was, as was referenced earlier, one of those career fires, but unfortunately, I can remember the first time I saw this and they said, oh, this is once in a lifetime, once in your career thing, but I've seen it more times than I care to. Our resources were obviously committed out there late Monday night through most of Tuesday. And as Tuesday morning came on, I'd reached out to my cover division chief and just said, hey, we need to call people back in because half of our department's out here right now, and the in-county move-up and cover did that. Before we could start making phone calls, our crews were making phone calls, and it was, where do you need me to go? Where do you need me to go? And by 9 o'clock Tuesday morning, 8:30 Tuesday morning, we had every piece of equipment that we have was staffed with the exception of a squad in our ladder truck. Sorry, we didn't get the ladder truck staffed to get it out of your station, but it was just phenomenal. And as a fire chief, super proud, but it literally just gave me goosebumps when I got that phone call that that, you know, we weren't mandatoring people back in. You know, the firefighters saw what was going on, and they just started making phone calls. Where do you need me? They held on, and we staffed all our equipment. We have 3 additional units that have been staffed throughout the duration, and they will be continued to be staffed. That's 2 water tenders and a Type 3 engine, all stationed out of Station 21 in Camino. So the crews are doing. It's just phenomenal. You know, when this is in your backyard, it's in your community. It's in the jurisdiction that, you know, that you're sworn to protect. I could not be prouder of all of our personnel, and that includes office staff that you know, came in over the weekend of what can we do to help. So it's just been hats off to all of them. It's a tough go for the community. You know, we're just coming off of the pandemic, and then, you know, a large area of our district is not only evacuated and shut down, but still very much in harm's way. That Slide Park corridor, when the fire started moving through Grizzly Flat, immediately hit my radar of Pleasant Valley and on up Slide Park. And you know, there's steps being taken right now to help mitigate that threat, but the threat is still there. The evacuations, in my opinion, are very much warranted, very much needed just for public safety. I couldn't be prouder of all of our firefighters. I call them ours because they work for me, but they support our community and serve our community, and all of us collectively, you know, should be extremely proud of the work that they've done, as well as the other firefighters that are coming in from, you know, across the state, region, and U.S. That, you know, a lot of those folks are getting pulled off of other fires they've been on for 1, 2, 3 weeks already, and they're here, you know, lacing up their boots and going to work for this community. So it's been phenomenal.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Tim, at what point did you or realize that we were going to have to call in more troops other than El Dorado County?
They started making those initial phone calls and recognizing the potential of this incident very early on. There is a lag time in getting those.
That's what I was thinking. That
it's a lag time, and unfortunately, this fire season, you know, with the shortage that we have in firefighters across the nation, as well as the fires that are going on, you know, being on the OAS coordination, you see those requests come through, and you'll see them come through UTF, which is unable to fill. So you'll see requests go out in the region for X amount of equipment, and just seeing it come across my phone, UTF, and that's, you know, that's our region. So knowing that there's a shortage, and I think as it was mentioned earlier, it's up to about 2,000 firefighters right now, which is a fraction of what the King Fire had. It was 1,700 yesterday, 1,500. The first couple of days, it was literally 400 or 500, which is just a drop in the bucket. You can come up with the greatest plans in the world, but if you don't have those boots on the ground to affect those plans, they're just good plans on paper. So it's hopefully starting to get the resources that are needed, but we're still a quarter of what we had for the King Fire.
So one more question. How do you determine when they can take a break and have a couple hours sleep? This is what I don't understand. I mean, they're just giving their all, and I mean, there's only so much a human body can do, and I know when you're under pressure like that, I guess you don't want to. I mean, my instinct would be I don't want to give up. I want to keep going. And is that the same mentality that they have to live with and fight with?
You know, it's one of those things that, you know, you start to feel the fatigue, especially early on, but, you know, you don't realize how long you've been there. And our initial crews that went out there, you know, they got the call about 11 o'clock at night to start heading that direction. That's, you know, they're already, you know, into their shift 11 hours. Our initial crews were out there until the following evening, about 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So, you know, they pulled basically a double shift. Their CAL FIRE counterparts, a lot of them pulled 72-hour shifts, and, you know, you might get a little break here and there, but typically now that as the resources come in, they'll be 12-hour or 24 hours, and the 12-hour shifts, you know, they're working day shift or night shift, so they're getting their rest cycles. The 24s do a 24 on, 24 off. So as more resources come in, then they can get those rest cycles, because you know, you start ramping up on the fatigue factor where production drops off.
Yeah.
So you've got to give, you know, this really tough terrain that they're working in. It's very stressful, and, you know, fortunately the temperatures haven't been that hot for them, but all the work they're doing, that does play into you know, fatigue, and over time it just wears down.
Well, they certainly have everybody's respect, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? I know my son, as I said this earlier, but he was on the medic unit assigned to the incident initially. He actually went out knocking door to door, working on evacuations initially, and now he's going to be assigned to a water tender on Thursday, I think, is what I heard. So
for a 7-day stint.
Mm-hmm.
And that you bring up a good point, Mr. Mayor, that all of our EMTs and paramedics that staff our medic units, they're dual role, they're firefighters. So even though they show up on an ambulance, they have all of the firefighting gear, equipment they need, the training, and they'll park the ambulance and immediately go into that firefighter role. So
yeah,
kudos, I couldn't be prouder of them.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. Chief, if you can give us a brief.
Sure. Well, I saw my opportunity when there was nobody sitting in the seat of the ladder truck, so I took advantage of that, and it's been staffed, Chief. So,
do you make the noise to her?
I absolutely do. Yeah. Worst case scenario for evacuations is for them to occur at night, and that's what occurred. Our staff, once they became aware that it was a mandatory evacuation, a fire was coming, responded up into the county and were just shoulder to shoulder with EDSO and Placerville CHP. So since that day up until yesterday, they were 12 on, 12 off, no days off. So it's like Chief Cordero said, it's until we get those additional resources in. It's our home, it's our backyard, so that's just what we do. So we're on for the police side of it, it's called a LEMA request, or law enforcement mutual aid. And that's why you'll see cars from other jurisdictions up in our county now. They've responded to that to assist us in not only security of the evacuated areas, but in the event there's additional evacuations that are required, they'll move in to assist. We Monday switched to a 6-1, so they're working 6 days on, 1 day off right now. We split the department's responsibilities because we still have to patrol and provide service to the city of Placerville. So one commander handles city operations, another commander handles our resource allocation to the LEMA request. Everybody's doing great. It's hard to pull them off of it. They want to be a part of it. They realize that the impact that this has to a lot of people that they call friends and neighbors. Some of our staff has also been evacuated, and there at the onset wasn't sure if their house was going to survive. So it's been long and tiring, a lot of long nights for everybody involved, not just your public safety personnel, but your community and those that are impacted by the evacuation. But we're in it together. That's what makes El Dorado County and Placerville awesome, is that we all step up when it's required of us. So that's good. No looting. We keep hearing about this on social media, and the best thing that can happen to our society is if somebody flips the switch to Facebook onto off. There's no looting that's occurring in El Dorado County. We're deploying close to 100 law enforcement officers in the evacuation zones. To put that in perspective, there's about 12 deputies on the west side during a normal shift, then three to four of us, and then the highway patrol is another handful. Well, we still have that deployment plus about another 100 officers in that zone. They're running into each other at this point. So that looting stuff we confirmed with EDSO, it's not occurring. People, for the most part, are adhering to the evacuation orders. Some of their, some of them are stressed being away from their home and have obvious concerns about being away from their property. We just ask that they understand the position we're put in. Law enforcement's following the orders of the hire that's making these decisions. So have patience with the officers that you encounter or the checkpoints that you come upon. Other than that, I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Go ahead.
Chief,
thank you and the officers for everything. My question is, the 2 officers that were injured, that were coming up, do we have any update on their status? I know I think they were in critical condition.
Yes, there hasn't been much of a change. They're both in the hospital and in critical condition. Yeah, it's a City of Galt Police Department. And when I had heard that happen, immediately reached out to him. One of the officers speaks Punjabi, and Officer Singh does as well. So we offered his assistance to the family as a liaison if that city needed it. So,
thank you for that.
It's a really sad part of this whole event. There's always loss, and there's always that risk involved, and that's one of those risks that you just can't even mitigate for because they're going down a freeway and getting in an accident with a head-on driver. So our hearts go out to those in Galt and the family of those officers, and we pray for their recovery, and we hope that they will be back with us. So with that, we're going to move on. City Manager Staff Report, State Per Capita Grant Award for Pickleball Courts at Lions Park. Mr. Zeller.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to give an update on that grant. The grant was actually submitted in by December of last year, and then I got a call around March or April and said that the deadline was actually March of this upcoming year. So I had some time, but then through the states, I've been doing a lot of people working remotely, and it's been difficult for them to cycle through things. And so I just got the agreement, the contract, a week and a half ago. And so I just wanted to give an update that we're prepared to sign the contract, but we're still in the design phase because of all of the other fun things we've been doing for the past 18 months.
Well, that's exciting. Any questions for? So that's going to be built alongside the tennis courts?
Yeah, if you're standing at the steps going up to the courts, it's going to be in the area that has a swale to the left of the tennis courts, closer to the playground. And there's still enough room to get those in there and probably keep that little footbridge that goes over the depression area between the playground and the tennis courts. And also, the tennis courts are going to be refinished, and the whole thing's going to get lights.
All right, wow. Yes.
Terry, what's the timeline for having that project completed?
Now that I'm able to get back to it, I'm still working on the design because we're using some in-house staff hours for part of our match. And if things go relatively unimpeded, I think we can look at trying to get a contract in the spring.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
How many courts?
There are going to be 4 pickleball courts because there's a pretty direct relation of pickleball courts to tennis courts where you can get 4 in the space of a normal tennis court with the normal out-of-bounds areas.
I just have a feeling this is going to be a real popular item. I think a lot of people have been wishing we had one here.
Yeah, I put them in Chico. We actually put in we had 8 tennis courts, and we converted 1 to 4 pickleball courts, which quickly was required to go to 8, of course, because there were so many people out there. And that was an arm wrestling match between the tennis folks and the pickleball folks. Okay. So we had to do a study and everything else, but right now we're looking at we're going to put the pickleball courts in, and then we're going to improve the tennis courts because we do have a good group of folks that uses those, and they really deserve to have courts without giant Grand Canyon-sized cracks in them.
Oh, that's not a good thing.
That's a big crack. Yes. All right. Any further questions?
I'll just say I was on Park and Rec when we had the pickleball people come, and it was like, wow.
They were serious, huh?
We didn't know there were so many. I didn't know there were so many people, or this was such a popular thing. It's crazy.
I didn't know about it until just recently.
I think we should maybe start planning where we're going to put some more.
right now.
I was at, was it McKendrick's, the computer store, and we're getting my computer fixed. Same thing. The owner, he's like a huge pickleball guy, and I guess they go down to Folsom. There's like this huge league there, and so they were like super excited about this happening here. So
here's a secret: our rec superintendent goes to Folsom to play pickleball.
There you go.
So.
Wow. All right, with that, we have our list of upcoming items.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, if I may. We have 2 more staff reports for you.
Yes,
Mr.
please.
Rivas would
I
like to
forgot
give
about
you
that.
an update on the housing element, and Ms. Neves would like to give you an update on the trip to Green, the first
My
day.
apologies. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Staff provided each of the council members with a very large document. It's the draft 2021 to 2029 housing element. That document will be considered at your special council meeting on August the 31st. So we were fortunate we were able to get this draft completed and to you as quickly as possible so you have a full week to review it. It's a lot of material. So I'm just going to give you just a brief report on what the housing element is. The housing element is a mandatory element of the city, of any city or county's general plan. Per state law, and the city's housing element must be updated every 8 years. Housing elements cover an 8-year cycle. The current housing element, it's the 5th-year cycle, was the planning period from 2013 through 2021. The draft now before you will cover the planning period from 2021 through 2029. To remain on the 8-year update cycle and to avoid having to update the housing element every 4 years as opposed to every 8 years, the City Council must adopt the housing element update by September 12th and then staff will submit the document to the State Housing and Community Development for their certification. So that's the primary reason why we wanted to schedule a special meeting, just in case there's any controversy or if it requires another hearing, which I don't think it will, but just in case. We do have time to have a second meeting if necessary. A key component of the housing element update is addressing and planning for the city's regional share of housing needs, or what we call RHNA, for the next 8 years. That would be through the year 2029. This regional housing share was determined by SACOG, the Sacramento Area Council of Governments, through its Regional Housing Needs Plan that was adopted back in March of 2020. A total of 259 units were determined as the city's fair share of regional housing need, and these units must be planned for during the 2021 to 2029 housing element planning period. Staff began in earnest preparing the draft Cycle 6 housing element back in February of 2020. That first draft was sent to HCD back on March 14th for review and comment. Comments were received from them on July 13th from HCD, and staff then prepared a revised draft for review by the public and for consideration by the Planning Commission. The revised draft did show the changes by underline and strikeout. The Planning Commission did hold a public hearing to consider the revised draft at their August 17th meeting. The Commission did make some minor revisions to the background section of the housing element. There were no substantive modifications were made, in particular to the policy section. Revisions that were made by the Planning Commission are shown as underlined and strikeout and are highlighted in yellow, so you'll be able to easily ascertain which changes were made by staff in response to HCD or public comment versus those changes that were made by the Planning Commission at their August 17th meeting. Staff has scheduled a hearing for consideration and adoption of the housing element at your special council meeting scheduled for August 31st. And that concludes my report. Happy reading.
This is almost as good as the QAP.
Thanks, Pierre.
I have a question. Pierre, this is my first time going through this process. How much discretion does the City Council have on the policies and recommendations in this document?
The city has a lot of discretion.
Okay.
I mean, there are certain statutory requirements that we must fulfill, but most of that is in your policy and the background. But I think the way the state characterizes it is we must affirmatively provide for housing and affirmatively provide for fair housing. And so that's why the bulk of the document is basically background supporting documentation to support the policies that the city would adopt.
Okay. So if there's something in here, obviously I haven't looked at this yet because it was just on the desk here, but say I read something in here that I was like, oh, I really don't like that. There is the ability of the city council to address things in here that might negatively affect the community, or it's not just like set in stone.
Right, it's not set in stone, but I would just caution that if the council were to make substantive changes, then we would probably be required to remand it back to the Planning Commission, okay. And that would delay the time. So keep in mind, this is part of your general plan, which can be subject to modifications anytime during the planning period. So we just want to be able to get this in the HCD so we could meet the statutory requirement and not be forced to update it every 4 years, because then that's just an extra cost on the city.
Yeah.
But you can always adopt it after that date, anytime.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pierre. Look forward to it. Actually, it's interesting to see, it's unfortunate, interesting to see what we have to do to meet the state guidelines for housing overlays and the restrictions that we ultimately end up having to put on individuals' properties to meet those guidelines. And if we don't, because there were several years for a while back that we actually didn't have a updated housing element, and it cost us, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It did. It was unfortunate, but there was a time period where the city did not adequately zone enough properties for multifamily where you could have the higher densities to meet the low and the very low and the extremely low income levels. So we were able to correct that. The issue that we had was when you're rezoning property and you're trying to rezone it for a much higher level of development potential, the property owner feels that that's an inverse condemnation of the use of their property. They would argue, well, I can't build an apartment complex at 24 units an acre or greater. There isn't a demand for it. And I guess there's some truth to that, just given that I think the latest or the most recent apartment complex was the Clay Street Senior Apartments, which probably was built well over 20 years ago. So we haven't seen any apartments since, though we do have some in the pipeline now that will help us in this housing element. So to get back to my point, staff found that there were some other jurisdictions that use what's called a housing opportunity overlay zone. So we went through the whole process of we modified our general plan, we created a whole zone district where this overlay would be on top of the base zone. So say, for example, somebody is zoned for single family residential use, but we put the housing opportunity overlay. We went through the whole process to entitle the property so that somebody could come in if the opportunity arises, the right developer, the right financing through the state or the feds, that they could build an affordable housing project. Then they can go in and also build an apartment complex at 24 units or greater. So it gave the property owner then the ability to feel comfortable that I don't have to, but if the opportunity came, I may. And that's what we actually had that happen in 2 different sites. So it's worked out.
It's nice to soften that. Mm-hmm. Yes. All right. Thank you very much. Did you?
I just wanted to say that we need to have a very brief discussion on these 2 items only because they're not agendized. So we just need to accept a brief staff report and not engage in further discussion at this time.
Thank you. And you have a brief agenda item to discuss, not to discuss, to share with us.
It's only 14 pages.
All right,
take
good.
very long.
Okay, thank you.
As council is aware, the Trip the Green project has been an effort that we've been working with the Transportation Commission, with Caltrans, and with just our general community to address some of the traffic impacts associated with recreational traffic. Public outreach materials are actually being developed right now, and the website went live late last week through the main El Dorado County Transportation Commission website. Detour maps were actually finalized on August 16th in the afternoon, late afternoon. On Tuesday the 17th, I received a call from Chief Wren, and those detour maps became the implementation plan that supported the evacuation efforts through town for Pollock, Grizzly Flats, and Camino. It came together pretty quickly, efficiently, and we were really blessed to have the resources we needed with Public Works staff, Caltrans, our fine police department, and Veer Camp setting up the closures and the detours. Definitely saw a lot of God's hand working with us that day. It was pretty incredible to watch everybody come together. So Caltrans stayed on site, and we had operational support for the duration of the signals remaining in green. We also took it as a blessed opportunity to learn and make modifications for when we do implement the future proof of concept projects. Ever studious, we took notes and figured out things that are working and things that aren't, and things we hadn't thought of while we were developing a plan. And it was a great opportunity that I think will have some benefit in the future in terms of streamlining it even more. Because of the lasting impacts that are expected from the Caldor fire, it's also important to recognize that we may not be ready for a Trip the Green in September. So we are currently working with Caltrans right now on potentially pushing back that initial date to providing 2 weekends in October versus having one in September and one in October. We're currently looking at doing the first and second weekends in October. We began that initial discussion with Caltrans today, and it looks favorable. It actually gives us a little bit more time to get some of that public outreach out as well. And some modifications will need to be considered for the messaging, because when we do this proof of concept, because there is an element of PTSD within the public, that we will have to change our messaging in terms of conveying that, this is a fire drill or this is a proof of concept project, that we really need to have that communication clear in our messaging. I'm really grateful that we had this. I'm really grateful for El Dorado County Transportation Commission, who helped us secure the funding for the proof of concept project, because that ultimately funded the public outreach that allowed us to have those detour maps last week. So that's it, and I'm happy to answer any brief questions that you have.
And it was the city that pushed to have this whole thing brought forward through the Transportation Commission.
Yep, actually, I distinctly remember several Transportation Committee meetings commission meetings with an individual up there that I know well, and pushing for that for our community. And so I really do have to make it clear to the public that it's their very own city council that actually championed a lot of this effort to come through and really pushed hard. And, Mark Acuna started with the conversation, and it's been that torch has been carried on, and really grateful for it. And it was unfortunate that we had to use it the way we had to use it last week, but I was grateful it was there.
Yeah. And
I don't think it was unfortunate, really.
No, yeah.
I think it was a good thing.
Yeah. Unplanned.
Yes.
Well, I just happened to be coming through town when I couldn't believe the jam, and
it was like 4th of July on steroids.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And something had to be done. It was pretty obvious.
Yeah. All right. Careful.
I have an off, not on this question, but I've gotten like a couple of questions in an email. The large cameras or whatever that have gone up on along Highway 50. I've been telling people they're lasers, and if you're speeding, they'll destroy you. So I don't know if I can say that, Chief, but yeah, good.
I mean, sure. No, they're actually part of an effort that Caltrans has been working on for quite a while, and we're actually seeing the fruits of that effort too. One thing that we've been struggling with here as a community is the signal timing. It's always been a question in my mind. Well, why doesn't Caltrans do this? Why doesn't Caltrans do that for the signal timing? Bless their hearts, they're out there every weekend during the recreational season. They've timed it as much as they can. They've fine-tuned it as much as they can. And the reason why they're out here every weekend is because they don't have remote access at the TMC, the Traffic Management Center in Rancho Cordova. The effort that you're seeing, and you've probably noticed a bunch of work at all the on and off ramps as well, that is that project. those cameras are traffic cameras that are tied into the TMC as well, so that they can manage the system a little bit better and do so remotely. They don't have to wait for a heartbeat to get out there. They can actually make the adjustments in the TMC.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm still going to tell people they're
Lasers are great
but
too. Yeah.
And
helps
they're extremely ugly. But,
Sure.
All right.
It's how we're catching speeders.
Yes. All right. Okay. With that, I believe we have no further items on the agenda, so I am going to adjourn this meeting until our special meeting that's going to be held
On Tuesday, the 31st at 5 o'clock.
Thank you very much for that. All right. Everybody have a good evening, and thank you for coming.